Hey there, Naomi Kaufman. How you doing? Hmm. And there's Lady. Wow. Okay.
Good afternoon, Charles. How are you, sir?
Good, dear. How are you?
I'm doing great. Doing
Good.
great. Hi, Naomi.
Yeah, she's not talking to us. I,
Okay.
I think she's signed on, but she's probably just hanging out waiting for the class to start somewhere other than in front of the computer. And that's okay. We'll just unmute her.
So, do you have any update on the art show?
Yeah, you sent me an email about that. I was going to answer you. No, I don't. I I sent an email to Kermit, and the response I got from him was that, there's nothing new, but he would let me know as soon as he heard something. So we're waiting. Like, okay.
Okay. And do I need to send my artwork again?
I would like you to, if you can
Okay.
photograph it and resend it. That would be great. That way, when I do hear from Kermit, I don't have to spend a couple of days trying to gather up work from people.
Okay. Well, I will send it to you this afternoon.
That would be great. I would appreciate that. Yeah.
All righty.
That would just make life a little easier. Things like this, I like to try to be a little preemptive, rather than wait,
Right.
respond. So, because I think, the quicker I can get it together and send him something, the better. So,
Yes. Okay. Sounds like a winner. I'll do that this afternoon.
okay, thank you. So we got a
Well, I'm gonna put myself on mute because I'm eating my late lunch.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you can do that.
All righty. So I won't disturb the class.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'll probably just make everybody hungry.
Yeah, that too.
That too. Okay. Let me go grab something. All right, I'm back. Yes. Okay. Good. I got everything I need. Hey, how you doing there, Rebecca?
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, dear.
Nice to talk to a human.
It's always nice to talk to humans.
Well, it's nice to talk to a human instead of a robot. That's what I meant.
Oh. Mm-hmm. Have you been speaking to robots?
Well, we seem to be speaking to more and more of them. I'm always glad for the human element, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I watched something recently, probably about 2-3 months ago. It was really surprising to me, actually, that a lot of these customer service calls, and you think you're actually talking to a person, they've gotten to the point now where they're so interactive that they actually sound like a human.
Wow, I believe that.
And you
Yeah.
don't really know that you're talking, to a program, because it's not just the standard answers. I mean, they can, gather information and stuff and respond to you almost, almost on the level of like a person.
Yes, each one has a 5-second hesitation before they actually speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's your clue that you're speaking to a machine instead of an actual human.
Yeah. Well, most people must think that I'm a machine then.
No, they don't. They would never do that.
Well, I don't, you know, I mean, people will ask me something and I'll kind of sit there and go, you know, I usually try to think before I start opening my mouth.
What? I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear
Good
that.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
How you doing there, Armando?
Fine. I like to see you in good mood.
You do?
Yes.
Have you ever seen me in a bad mood?
No.
Ever? I mean, I don't, maybe.
Not really.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Anyway, how's everybody doing?
Good.
Fine.
Good. Hey, Eloise, how are you?
Hi.
You look beautiful, Miss Eloise.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you so much. That makes me feel really good.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, she always looks wonderful and radiant and happy, and you know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we got a lot of ground to cover today. I'm going to talk about this being about painting. We're going to talk about painting, and I'm going to introduce you to an artist today that I can't say that I'm really familiar with his work. Okay, I've just recently seen his work, but I think it's kind of exciting stuff actually, and you know, I know personally as an artist, you know, I tend, you know, when people look at my work, they say, you know, well, it's very traditional, okay, and they're right, it is, okay, and I've been trying to do something about that and get a little looser and maybe a little more abstract and a little more contemporary and modern, and I've made attempts, but to be honest with you, I still struggle with that. And sometimes I think that my preliminary work looks maybe more contemporary than my finished work, because I tend to fall back in my old habits and probably spend too much time over painting and over rendering. Okay, that would be my critique of my own work. Okay, and at any rate, the thing that I actually like about this guy, and his name is Patrick Lee, is I think he's hit a really good balance between doing representational painting and yet at the same time making it look timely. You know, you can definitely tell that this guy is painting in the 21st century. It's definitely a contemporary feel to it, even though it has elements of, you know, traditional painting. So I'm going to share that with you. We're going to look at some of his work. We're also going to, I think I have his web page or a web page up on it. And I'm going to share that as well. Okay. And then we'll kind of go through some of the work and kind of go from there. So that's where I'm going to start. Before we jump into this, anybody got anything that they need to say, questions, any answers to anything you need before we move on? Okay. All right. So here it is, Patrick Lee. And it's nice to see all 10 of you here today. All right, let's see. Yes, let's go look at this young man's website first. We'll start there. And I don't need that up there. That's just in the way. All right. So, you know, as you can see,
Patrick Lee.
Patrick Lee, yeah. So this is his webpage. And, you know, they've got a very nice photograph of him, you know, standing out there in the world, you know, painting this old shed. And as you can see, he's doing this plein air. And he's actually working fairly large, you know, well, I would say very large, actually, for a plein air piece, which a lot of plein air painters, you know, don't do. But that seems to be kind of a new trend. A lot of artists are going outside and trying to paint plein air, but they're doing it, you know, on a much larger scale. Now, you know, he's not really all that old. He was born in 1972. That doesn't make him, you know, a spring chicken either. But he's, you know, firmly into his career as an artist. And if we kind of just scroll through, you know, he's had articles in Plein Air magazine, you know, Fine Art Connoisseur, toward abstract Plein Air magazine. Yeah.
We just put a chair the arm.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What was your question, Jim?
Oh, sorry. I supposed to turn off my.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. I guess that was not a question. Okay, but you know, if you look at his, you know, list of exhibitions and shows, you know, he's been showing work, you know, ever since, you know, really the beginning of like the early 2000s, you know, 2006, and he lives up in Pennsylvania. And you know, so he's been busy. You know, he's been showing work, things like that. Now we're going to go to his painting page, and let's you know, the thing that interests me. I haven't really looked through all these. Let's start with the no-tan paintings. Okay, we'll click on that and take a look at them. Okay, now does everybody understand or know what no-tan
No.
or means?
Really?
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, basically, it's a Japanese design process, really. It's about taking something and reducing the image, you know, really into just black and white. You know, not even really gray tones. You know, it's just pretty much all black and white, and it's kind of patterned. So, you know, these are some figurative studies. At least they would appear to be, yes, all figures. And you see he's doing them in that kind of no-tan approach. So he's not really putting in any details. He's reducing it, you know, down to, you know, a pretty minimal sketch, right? Now, I'm not sure how large these are. You know, he's drawn these off in little rectangles and blocks. So I would imagine that they're probably not real large, you know, but really just kind of nice simplification, you know, of the form, and then maybe a cast shadow or something like that. Something to basically balance the light and the dark.
Charles, what is the name of that technique again? Are you saying note pen?
No-tan. Yeah, no-tan. It's up here at the top of the page. N-O-T-A-N. Painting.
Okay, thank you.
Right. And you, there's actually a couple of books out on no-tan, and they are incredibly expensive. I don't know why, you know, but we're talking, I think they're like a couple of $100. And it's like, really? It's like, I'm curious, but I don't know that I'm a couple of $100 curious. But yeah, I've been looking into that, trying to figure out exactly, you know, what that's all about. But I've heard the term before, and I've seen some people working in that direction, and I've heard a couple of people talking about the process that they're working with, and it seems interesting. I don't know that I'm ready to jump in the deep end of the pool and go spend a couple $100 on a book about it. Okay. So from the no-tan, go to the Plein Air. There we go. Yeah. Let the page load. So, and you know, as you can see, you know, he's got a good firm grasp of you know, design, composition, perspective. You know, so his basic drawing skills and things are really, you know, very good, very solid. And again, you know, his painting process seems to follow that that Notan approach of breaking things down into masses of light and dark. You know, and that's pretty much so true with just about all of his paintings. But you know, they're very striking because of the contrast. Now, you know, here and here they begin to get a little more kind of traditional looking. So whether those are earlier paintings, I'm not really sure. You know, but this one in particular, you know, I like. Let's click on it and see if we can. Okay. Really no detail, you know, just big shapes of color, you know, blocked in and value. And done very nicely. Let's see, can we go let's reduce that. There we go. That way I can find the arrow. See, again, you know, really nice, strong composition, you know, leading your eye in, interesting shapes, and nothing is really centered. You know, it's kind of a nice movement throughout the whole piece. Yeah. Your battleships, you know, at dock, and
That look like an old ship yard.
yeah, yeah, they would be. That's like probably part of the mothballed fleet.
Mhm.
It looks like. Yeah. Harbor scene. And notice that, you know, all these little shapes down in here, you know, in reality, they don't really all fit together to make a boat. But, you know, the overall impression that you get is that it is, you know, it's a boat and it's tied up at a dock. And it's just, you know, very simplified paint strokes and shapes, light and dark patterns. A big tree. Now, when you begin to look at this, yeah, this seems like at first a very simple painting, doesn't it? Yeah, not a lot to it, but then you begin to look at it, and the fact is that he has everything in here in this particular painting of this tree that we talk about, you know, as far as, you know, elements of the landscape to try to create the illusion of depth and distance, you know, the size relationships of this tree to this tree, the line here, you know, moving across, you know, not at a horizontal, but see slightly angled. See, pulling your eye up and across, and then it's almost like, you know, he takes you upward with this tree, and you kind of get into a lot of the texture and color and stuff going on up in here all the way across and back over again, and then back down. And he's got all this texture, you know, and broken up pattern between light and dark here, which make this an interesting area to view. And then you're back across again and up. So you see, he's using elements in there and designing those paintings very carefully to really get your eye to move, you know, throughout the canvas and not be static. And as I was saying, you know, his work feels, you know, appropriate for the time, you know, and very contemporary. You know, he doesn't look like a painter out of the early 1900s or anything like that. He looks like a contemporary modern painter. And yet, you know, he's still doing representational painting. But a lot of his work really just sits right there on the edge, you know, and kind of on the border of being abstract, which, you know, personally, I think is a really nice place to be. You know, it's kind of a nice balance, you know. This is really, you know, to me, a very interesting painting, you know, just the cast shadow and the warmth of the shadow. It's, you know, these greens and olive colors, which is a warmer temperature than the white, even though he's put yellow, you know, in his white here to raise the temperature of it. And then the texture of things, and really kind of nice way of leading you in and across up into the shadow, and then you kind of catch these windows. And if you just kind of notice how your eye moves through the painting, you know, it's really, really well constructed. You know, a nocturne. Now this is kind of borderline, you know, really traditional feeling almost, but it's so painterly and so simplified that it really does feel, you know, like a you know, like a contemporary painting. I think that was the end. Yep. Yeah. Can't go any further. Anybody get any thoughts about anything we've seen so far?
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
The picture of the tree that you showed us looks exactly like a tree that we, as a group, saw when we did a plein air painting with you a couple of years ago at it's in some woods that's close by,
Mm-hmm.
but it looks exactly like that tree.
Oh.
Anyway, his pictures look familiar.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think, and I think that's a good point. If you look at any of his paintings, there are elements that are familiar, though you can't really put your finger exactly on the place, but it's that nice balance of suggesting that something is there, so you end up really making it your own. And it's something that, you know, maybe you've experienced before in the past. And
to me, it's like his paintings are where we get to that point that he's finished. We go and say, all right, let's start putting the detail in.
mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's I want to show you some of his interiors. Some of his interior paintings, I think, are particularly really interesting and really strong. Just the way that he creates space, you know, in a lot of these interior paintings that he does. And interiors are something that you don't see people doing a lot of these days. They were really popular back in, say, the late 1800s, around the 1870s, 1880s, particularly like the Victorian era. A lot of artists were doing a lot of interiors. You don't see them done that much these days, but he does them, I think, you know, particularly well. And again, you know, he does them in a very contemporary way. And in some ways, like this piece in particular, kind of reminds me of some of the interiors that you see Andrew Wyeth, you know, producing. See, it gives you just enough, you know, the table, the chair, you know, the desk. You know, these are recognizable elements, and it convinces you that all the rest of this is, you know, more stuff in his face. That he really hasn't taken the time to really bother with, you know, painting in any real way. He's just suggested that something was there. You know, just getting the sense of the light and the color, you know, in that room, and the play of warmer temperatures against cooler temperatures. Really nicely done. You know, most of us would walk by a scene like that and go, nobody would want to paint that. But you know, he makes a really compelling painting, you know, of a subject that, you know, most of us would go like, yeah, you know, not particularly interesting. And again, really just nice use of color, juxtaposing, you know, really warm, intense color against more muted and cooler temperatures. See, again, you know, one of those situations where you would kind of look at that and go, well, there's nothing particularly interesting to paint there, right? But, you know, he makes, again, you know, a very compelling painting. So those are some of the interiors that he's done. Really, you know, one of the things I admire about his work, I guess, is that he's got a really wide range and interest in his work. He does everything. He does figures, he does buildings, he does plein air, you know, nature. So it really covers, you know, a really wide gamut of different types of work. Girl on a Bike. So, yeah, two, looks like kids sitting in like a carriage or something like that. And you see, he gives you just enough of the suggestion of the features in the face in this to make it convincing, you know, that they're, you know, actual, you know, children or people, you know, in that carriage. But he doesn't, you know, he doesn't overpaint it. He doesn't overwork it. Yeah. This is the first piece that I saw of his, and it really, really caught my eye. I was like, wow, I need to go, you know, look at some more of this guy's work. It's really nicely done.
And that I can see as an old man,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
like me.
And he has a kind of an unusual sense of color. You know, really kind of playing those, you know, warm colors, cool colors against each other.
the three nuns?
It looked like it did it. Kind of walking around in the snow. I'll feed the pigeon.
It looks almost like he's making an abstract painting and then decides to put figures on top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I was saying earlier. It's this nice balance between, you know, a representational painting and an abstract, because it's really got, you know, elements of both. But it's just enough. You know, he's right there at that line where it's just enough that you can go, okay, you know, I see figures, I see faces, heads, you know, in this case, you know, hands and an arm and a leg. And yet what's around it, the background, is really totally abstract, very simplified shape. I'd be kind of interested to, you know, watch his process, and I'm wondering whether he starts off very loose and builds toward this, or whether he'll build it to a certain point and then go back and start eliminating and simplifying. So I'm kind of curious as to how some of these are constructed. But really nicely done stuff. Really nicely done stuff. Now this one I kind of wonder about, you know, is it a person? Is it a bird? Is it an angel? You know, it could be any of those.
Is it a cross?
Well, it seemed, yeah, it could be that as well.
It could
But if
be
you look at, it's kind of like maybe a bird, like the head of the bird, the wings, the body, or it could be a person, you know.
The bottom looks like it has 2 feet.
Yeah. So it's really, again, you know, it's right there on that line between, you know, where it's so abstract. It could be any of those things. You know, you can,
Almost looks like somebody calling for help,
could be.
waving their arms. It could be anything.
Yeah. So again, you know, it's like how you see it. And
Right.
I can't emphasize enough, you know, sometimes how important that is to, you know, let something go and just suggest that it's there rather than fill in all the details. You know, it's like trying to find that balance of giving the viewer just enough to intrigue their eye and interest, and then begin to, you know, build their own story around it, like we did back there with that one painting. So, you know, and you could look at this and go, okay, so there's 3 figures and they seem to be in the water, you know, floating on like a raft or something like that. And they seem to be all focused on something that's on the raft. We don't really know what. Could be a turtle, could be a fish, could be anything.
Could be a hole in the raft.
Could be a hole in the raft, you know. And again, you know, see, the suggestion of two figures, you know, they're in a chair. My trackpad on my Mac is kind of going out on me, I think. Maybe time to get a new Mac. Or at least get this one fixed or something. Anyway, so let's see. He has his structures down here. I'm not quite sure what that is. Saw some pieces of his that he had done some animals. Yeah, this looks like building. He did a bunch of them with like horses and, you know, cows and different things. And again, you know, in this very same style.
Do you have one to show?
No, I mean they're not on his site here.
Oh, okay.
I may have saved one to the desktop. We're gonna go look at it in a minute. But yeah, like this piece. You know, again,
Yeah, I like a few of them. Some of them I don't care.
yeah. You know, hey, look, nobody's gonna bat 1,000.
Mhm.
You know, I don't like 100% of my paintings. You know,
This one doesn't tell me anything.
uh-huh. Actually, at this point, you know, in life, I think if you get a 50%, you know, that you like 50% of your own work and think it's fairly decent, then you're probably doing okay. You know?
Well, some of my old work, I'm like, damn, that look awful.
Some of your old work, what?
Huh?
Some of his old work, he says, it looks awful.
Oh, yeah. Well, Armando, guess what? That's usually a couple of hours after I finish painting. I feel that way just about all of them.
Oh dear.
You know, and it usually takes about a year or two of me not looking at them before you can go back and go, you know, actually that's not so bad. So that's usually how it works with me. So, but again, you know, just think about the composition, you know, and the shapes, and look at the size relationships of things. And a couple of the artists that we've seen videos on and things, you know, all talk about that, you know, about being very careful about designing the composition so that you don't have shapes and things that are equal size. You know, there's things that are more dominant, less dominant, you know, broken up into, you know, different shapes and values. And it really makes, you know, a huge difference, you know, in the kind of the flow of the painting and how your eye moves around in it. See, you know, I would walk down the street and look at that and go, well, you know, there's, yeah, not anything particularly interesting to paint there. Yeah, and yet, you know, he sees it a different way. All right. So anyway, that's Patrick Lee. Let's see, we'll stop sharing. And so any thoughts about his work? Anything you saw that you liked, disliked, you know?
Some of each.
Pardon?
I said I liked and disliked some of each.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to go.
Some of it looked like it was all in, like somebody was moving and it was all just trash.
Mm-hmm.
And some of it was I like the breakup and the colors in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Real quick, I'm going to share some of the work that I downloaded from him. And I may have some of those animal paintings in there.
I have a question about those animals.
Those, which animals? You mean the animals that we drew?
That you sent, yes. We're
Yeah.
supposed, I did one, but I haven't done the others. So we're supposed to do a draw, and that's it.
Well, we did. We drew them on Friday. I don't know whether you were here on Friday or not.
No, I was not here on Friday.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did one last night, and then
Okay. Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, people are sending, some of those drawings in. It wasn't an assignment. It was just part of the class. But I offered to send those images out so that if people wanted to work on their drawings to go any further than they did, that they would have an option to do that. And if you want to draw those, that's fine.
And I did in the way how we used to do when we were in the center, that you used to give a specific time. So I did it fast.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we had 20 minutes for each of those.
Oh, I did it in 10.
Okay, that's fine. you can set your own time. However much time you need, right?
Show off, show off.
You just look at it, let me know how awful look.
We'll talk about those. I mean, I saw your shark. That's the only thing you sent so far,
Yes.
and that wasn't so awful. That was fine. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, these are some of the paintings that I downloaded that we hadn't seen.
But that's from yourself or somebody else?
Well, this is the same guy, Patrick Lee.
Oh, from Patrick. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I had downloaded some photos, and then I found his website and it had all those paintings on there. So I just decided to show him off of the website. I thought I got those two horses, pulling the cart, but he had some others that I thought were pretty nice.
The first one you showed, the horse, the white horse was very flat.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't three-dimensional quality to me.
Yeah, it's everything's very simplified.
Just one side just looks like it's just flat. That's all I can say. The white side of the horse there just looks flat. It's not.
Yeah, it does a little bit.
Curvature of a body or anything to me.
Yeah, but I guess my question is, does it look flat in the sense that the hip back here looks as close to us as the head, or do you mean it just looks like
it has that, but it looks like that the front foot could be a wooden leg,
Mhm.
literally. I mean, to me.
Yeah.
The only thing that the head and the neck comes three-dimensional. Then when you get to the behind the harness and that leg, over to the back end of the body, it looks like wood,
Mm-hmm.
flat piece of white wood.
Okay. Yeah, I just read it as a horse.
All the color and the thought and the simplicity of it, but it's just. I mean, if I were going to paint it, flat,
Yeah.
I could do a poster paint. Just one color. That's it.
Say that again, Jane. the last part? Say that again, Jean, what you were saying, Mrs. Lady.
That it just looks so flat, you could do opposed to, you know, painting of just one color. Don't bother to put the purple shadow in there or anything with the yellow or anything. It just looks that flat, like a piece of poster board with, to me.
Mhm.
So then I have a question, Joe. So my question is, I definitely understand what Jean is saying, the way it looks.
Yeah.
So again, my dilemma is, does it make it wrong, or does it make it right, or does it make it what it is? Because that's how the artist saw it.
Yeah.
Makes it
I mean,
what you
Her
paint.
points are valid. You know, I can definitely see what she's saying,
Mhm.
but I don't see it as flat where she sees it as flat.
Yeah.
I see the shadows, two horses there, and I can see the shadows. Now, they may not be in perfect alignment, and I can see where you can think that there's a wooden leg, but I see 4 white legs.
Mhm. Yeah.
But the second one is a shadow, yes.
But if you look at the horses, the white horse's head and neck, and how it's painted more painterly, more three-dimensional, and then go to that first left all white leg in the front, it just looks like a piece of wood standing up under his beautiful neck in the head. It doesn't look,
Right. So,
No.
Jane,
yes.
here's what I would say to all of that, okay? Which is, I think where he wanted you to look was he wanted you to look at the two heads of the horse, because that's the focal point of the painting.
Right.
And then he made a choice, a decision, to not render the rest of the body, but to simplify it again so that those two heads come forward in the painting and the rest of it begins to sit back. So I think it was a fairly conscious choice on his part to not render them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand that, but I would have done, to me, it makes it, I don't know, it's too,
Yeah.
quirky is not a good word either.
Yeah.
But I would have shown the neck against the breast. It doesn't fit. It looks like a pony's leg and front body against the older horse's neck and face. I mean, it's illogically put together to me, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's, to me, that this is the best part of the class, when someone else sees it and explains what they see, and I see it completely different. And I think one of the best comments in the class ever was yesterday when Susan made the comment about Bob's artwork and said, "I see 2 dogs." That just blew me away, because wow, she saw something that nobody saw. And then Bob said, "I see 1 dog," and he's the artist.
Yeah.
And so that's the fascinating part about, you know, the class, and just listen to other people's perspective of what they see, you know.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate, Jean, I appreciate you saying it looks flat, because I didn't see that until you said it. But it still, to me, looks, I see 4 legs and harness and 2 horses, but I see what you're saying.
Right. Now, and again, you know, it goes back to that thing I keep saying, which is, you know, one of the strengths of doing a painting versus a photograph is that you eliminate a lot of the details, but you leave enough in so that somebody looking at it will relate or recognize what you're painting. In this case, you know, we're looking at, you know, 2 horses pulling a cart. Now, this artist chose to simplify and leave out a lot of the detail. And yet there's enough detail there that if we look at it, each of us see it in a slightly different way. And we fill in, you know, all of those parts that are missing to make the picture kind of complete for us. And so, you know, the way that Lady sees it versus Jean versus me versus Armando, you know, everybody's going to see it slightly differently. And you're going to
What
read.
makes all this different? Everybody thinks about it differently. I said, that's what makes it good, because every artist is different. Every artist sees something different in the same thing,
Right.
including what you think.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah.
it looks like he quit on the anatomy between the breast and the leg in the front. I mean, it just looks like he.
Right. And see, you know, where you look at it and you go, well, maybe he didn't put enough time in on the anatomy. You know, he may feel like he maybe did too much. You know.
Yeah.
Again, because it's about conversation.
But I love the colors, and I love the spacing, and I love the different shapes of the different sizes, and where it was going to be a similar size, he put a different color and changed it by meaning a darker yellow in spots. The area looked a different size. It's beautifully rendered.
Yeah.
And you know what I saw. Actually, I had to get up and go someplace and walk back. And the interesting thing is when you walk back to it, you realize that it's had a three-dimensional quality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you walk away from it, you don't see it because I'm sitting in my computer. I still don't see it. But when I walked away and walked back, the horses, the heads and legs have the three-dimensional quality.
Right. Yeah, they come forward and then the rest of the painting moves back to space. Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. And reality is we know it's all on a flat surface. We all know that it's flat paint, but it communicates that idea of having distance and depth, you know, things coming forward and backward. And again, you know, look at you know, the design of it, you know, leads you, you know, lets your eye kind of flow through the painting in this kind of repetitive pattern. You know, you move back and then you move forward, and then you move back and then you move forward in the painting, you know, very nicely, and it kind of flows. And, you know, that's the thing about keeping the painting loose and more of a suggestion. That's really where it gets most of its power, you know, because it keeps it open to interpretation. And it's like the more you look at this painting, the more that you begin to see. And it's probably not really there, you know, but again, that's you kind of bringing your experience, you know, to this artwork. So anyway, that's just my thought on it. Anyway, so that was a nice conversation, wasn't it?
Yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
That's the way you go to a gallery and you can look at this same piece of art with 10 people and you have 10 different reflections of the painting that you see.
Right.
That's what makes it really interesting. And
yeah. And you know, you could carry that experience over to having, you know, 10 different artists in a room, all painting basically the same subject, but you get totally different interpretations of it. See?
Your apple could look 10 different ways.
Well,
you know, his artwork kind of reminds me of going to the eye doctor. You know, when the doctor puts those big machines on you and say, is it better or is it worse?
Yeah.
Number one or number two. And so his work is in the area of abstract and reality. And it's like, is it better or is it worse? Can you see it or can't you? You know, and so, and it's very, very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is the beauty of painting, you know, and making art in period. Is it, yeah, we all see it a different way and we all bring something different, you know, to the conversation. So, all right, now that we've seen Patrick Lee, I kind of wanted to do a little bit of a talk about some of the things I've been doing lately. And I've been doing,
Charles,
yes?
Charles, before you go on, let me see one more painting to see if one more looks three-dimensional if when I step away.
Oh.
Have you gotten off already?
Let's see.
We can do it another day.
No. Hang on. let's see.
I'm
No, I,
curious now. I see the painting well.
yeah,
So I should be standing
Yeah.
back a while. You know.
yeah, I closed them already. I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
All right. But yeah, I'll try to put some in maybe tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
We can look at them. Okay.
You didn't send out the new schedule yet, did you?
I am going to talk about that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Today is actually officially our last class, but yes, I need to get a new schedule out to you. We will have a class tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Okay. Being that it's a Thursday.
What about Friday?
Friday will be at 10 a.m.
Friday at 10 a.m.
Yes, and you will have links for them. Okay.
Oh,
It
you're gonna
won't
send
come
a
up on
new
the
link?
computer unless you send out the,
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm going to send you links to the.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm using the old link. That's what I'm using.
Well, no, don't try the old link. It won't get you there. Okay.
Well, today I got it, no problem.
Well, yes,
Yeah,
that's because you had to link to this class, but this is the last class.
Oh,
So
okay.
you'll need a new link starting tomorrow.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
all right. Everybody see a lady sitting on the couch?
well, I see a shark and some
Oh, there it
lady
is.
sitting on the couch. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
I bet you enjoy doing that painting.
Huh?
That's your paint?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time talking about some of the things that I've been working on. Okay. So actually, we're gonna start here. Okay.
I don't know. In my sale, I could concentrate on paint her. I don't know.
Okay. So everybody see a drawing of a woman sitting on a couch?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Okay, good. All right. So, and I showed these to you guys, I think last week. These little pencil sketches, right? They're
Right.
thumbnails.
Right. Yep.
Yep.
Now, most of these, hello? Most of
I
these
said it
drawings,
showed the painting of that lady too.
Jane, if you're going to talk, lean forward so we can.
I said you showed the painting of the lady on the couch also after the pencil sketches whenever you did it last week.
Well, no, because I did. Well,
No, I don't think so.
anyway, the drawing I did last week, and I shared them with you guys. I think it was like maybe Thursday or
Yeah,
Friday.
that we saw.
So, and again, these are very small. These are probably like 3 by 5. That's as big as the drawings are. They're very small. And then from there, I took those sketches that were in the sketchbook and I did a color study yesterday. And that's what I did yesterday from that drawing. Okay.
I have a question, Charles.
Uh-huh.
I don't paint with oil, but this one you can see like the texture of the canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your paint was looser, lighter, or more watered down, or
Well,
is it
again,
a different type of canvas?
yeah, this is the canvas and it's only 5 by 7.
But usually you don't see that much texture of a canvas.
Well, no, because again, this is a 5 by 7 canvas, John. It's very small.
Okay.
And so
Okay.
the photograph of it, I mean, what you're seeing on the screen is actually bigger than the painting.
Ah, okay, I got you. Makes sense. Makes sense.
It's not very big. And again, this is kind of like the next step. So you did the drawing, you come up with the idea, and then you want to explore it. So you do a little color study, right? Now, I only did one of these so far, but I'll probably end up doing like 4 or 5. All the same composition, but I'll begin to play with different colors, different temperatures, keeping the value structure the same, but again, modifying the color. Maybe the next one will be cool colors instead of warm colors, you know, or vice versa, right? So again, you know, that's part of the process. You start off with a sketch or a thumbnail and you develop it. You know, it's not just a start off on a 16 by 20 canvas and come up with a finished painting. This is another example, okay? Again, you know, just a little thumbnail. You know, finding out where the darks and the lights and, you know, setting up some kind of composition. And then from there, I took it and I developed it into that. So, and again, you know, playing with, you know, pushing the color, you know, putting something there that you wouldn't expect. You know, I mean, how many people do you see with, you know, green skin? Not
It looks like you elongated the body because the other body, like the body was kind of short. The body itself looks short.
yeah,
But that was more in proportion.
right. Yeah. Well, one was a thumbnail. This is, again, this is only about a 5 by 7.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a tiny little painting. It's not very big. And again,
So Charles, are you going to develop these into larger paintings?
yeah, that's the
Is
idea.
that the goal? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And what size would you do those on?
Probably 1824, you know, 2430, you know, something like that.
Okay.
You know, so that, again, you know, I'm trying to develop the composition, the color, the value before I get into doing the painting, so that when I get into doing the painting, I can maybe loosen it up even more and, again, stay away from, you know, detail. You know, this is an example of a landscape. Now I did this, I probably did this at the end of last year. And again, you know, it's just a little 5 by 7. That's it. You know, it's not very big. But I was just playing with the color, you know, and the composition of it. Now I didn't start off with a drawing with this. I just started off, again, trying to develop an idea for a painting.
This on paper or
No, this
canvas?
is on a canvas, but it's a very small. It's 5 by 7.
Uh-huh.
Tiny.
Yeah, but it look corrugated on the part with the show the sky. That's what I asked you if it was paper.
Yeah, no, it's canvas. Yeah. So, yeah, now this one is actually on like a gallery wrap canvas, but it's, again, it's just a small little tiny canvas. So another painting that I've been working on, and you've seen this at various stages, you know, there's this piece. And this was, you know, I did the underpainting, and at first I just had a border, just a black border that I was coming up with a design for. And so I put in the design around it and then let it sit and dry for a couple of weeks. And after it dried for a couple of weeks, I came back in after that and I think, yeah, this one, began to put a layer of glazes over it. You know, basically yellow and red were the two colors that I used. And so I used the red glaze over the figure and I used the yellow glaze over the rest of it. And again, see, it pushes more of this to the green sort of family. And so then again, I let it dry. And this time I let it dry for really maybe a couple of months. And I didn't get back to it for a while. So since I've been experimenting with these new colors that I got, I went back in and started putting more glazes and opaque passages and doing what you basically call scumbling. So it's, you're not working with liquidy paint, you're actually working with dry paint. But what you're doing is you're just very lightly working over areas, building up the color. So like, for example, We'll blow that up. So I went over the original piece, and again, this is all very dry paint, but I just began to build up, you know, more of those reds, grays, purples, you know, and then went back in with some brighter, lighter color. And so you just keep working over the layer, you know, the layers of paint, building up the colors, the depth in the color and the form, and softening and blending, you know, as you go. So, and then down in areas like this, you see, I made several passes with different paint mixtures. Now these again are opaque. They're not a glaze. Okay. And even in the shadows, you know, working more color, you know, into the shadows of the tree, things like that. As well as in the background.
The picture and the border are two different things, right?
No, they're all in the same piece.
Oh, okay. Okay, you just paint, the picture is painted on top of the border.
Well, I actually did the center part of the painting and left this as a black solid border until I painted on the design.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. And I took a little bit of time, you know, developing, you know, that graphic element, you know, that I repeated, you know, as a border all the way around.
I've got a question about the design on the border.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a decal? Did you make a decal or did you paint?
No, I painted each and every one of those.
Oh my word, that must have taken a long time.
Not really. It took, in total, as far as I've gone so far, it probably took no more than about an hour and a half to, you know, put that pattern in that border. You can faintly see the grid.
Right.
So it's like once I had a design, you just fill in the grid,
Oh, okay.
you know, and go to the next grid. So they're not all exactly alike.
You divided the border into sections.
Uh-huh.
And once you decided which section to start on, then you just transferred that for each new section.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. You know, it was a fairly easy thing to do. It's a little bit, it took a lot more time to actually design that graphic than it did to transfer that graphic and repeat it on that board. So, okay. And then the last thing that I want to show you is I had done this at Benson as a demo for a class, or I'd started it, and I had a figure and it was all acrylic. So I went back in and I played with these new oil paints that I got, and then enhanced the color a little bit on the figure and actually laid more paint, you know, back here in the background. Now this is a collage piece, so this is paper, a couple of different types of paper, including newspaper, a piece of fabric, you know, that went across the background, and then acrylic paint and oil paint, and I think that's about it as far as, you know, materials and things.
I have a question. What's the acrylic and what's the oil? Can you differentiate the two?
Not really, because this is all acrylic.
Right.
The figure was laid down in acrylic first, but now I've gone back in with some of these colors and softened a lot of these edges so that like the arm and the body and the legs and things look softer, you know, and the face, you know, it's not as harsh. There's not as many strong breaks in the color, and it gradates a little bit softer. And that's what the oil did. You know, it's just trying to blend, you know, and soften some of those edges. Okay. And that was kind of the point of using the oil.
That's a lot different than your usual style. I like that.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm playing. You know, I'm trying new things. Just like you guys. I'm trying to get you to try new things. You know, well, I am too. So there's a close-up. And you can actually see some of the acrylic paint still underneath the oil. And the nice thing about the oil is that when you scumble or lay it in, a lot of times you can scumble it down to where it's translucent. And a lot of the original color still shows, you know, through from underneath. Anyway, I just thought I would share that with you. And so that's kind of what I've been up to. Anybody got any questions about any of that? Or
No.
you may be asking, you know, why is he showing us this and where is he going with that?
I really like the direction of that last one, the way you're going that direction.
Yeah, the collage piece.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fun to do. Now, I will say, you know, the only reason that I went back to that was that, you know, I got my, I did a little online ordering. See, these are my 3 tubes of paint. Now, I got the same 3 colors. This is cyan, magenta, and yellow. Okay, but now this is an artist grade Italian paint, and it's called, well, it's spelled Maimer, and then Pro or Puro, Puro.
MARMI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, MAIMERIPURO. Okay.
Mameri Puro.
Yeah. At any rate, yeah, Mameri. Yeah, Mameri. At any rate, I ordered these from not Cheap Joe's, Jerry's. Okay. And from what I read about these, now these are equivalent, if not better, than Winsor Newton artist grade colors. And they're from Italy. And interestingly enough, they're not as expensive as the Winsor Newton. But in using these very small tubes, what I can tell you is that the color saturation in these small tubes is about double of what is in the large tubes right here of the Luca. And these are from Russia, okay? But a little bit of this color goes at least twice as far as the color goes in this. These are so much stronger and more saturated than this. Now, interestingly enough, this costs more than this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but not that much more. I think, you know, these were like maybe $10 or $12. I think this was like 16 for a little tube. Okay, and this isn't really, this is a 40 milliliter tube. This is pretty standard type stuff. You know, generally when I buy paint, I try to buy it, you know, in these, because I use a lot of paint. So I don't want to buy a lot of extra tubes, but I, you know, they didn't have anything available in a 200 milliliter tube. There were all these 40 milliliter tubes. That's all you could get. But I will say that, you know, I think it was worthwhile, you know, spending a little bit extra money, you know, on this, you know, this brand of paint, just because the color saturation is so much higher. So I was pretty happy with those. And I didn't order any other colors or anything in this brand, but I think I will. I think I'll go back and I'll order some more. And some of their colors, when you get into the cadmiums and things like that, get fairly pricey. I mean, you're looking at about, $30 to $40 for a tube, a small tube of paint like this. But, the reason I went this direction in the first place was that they carried a cyan, magenta, and yellow, primary yellow, in their paint line. And, basically I'm just experimenting, with this. And by the way, all of the small 5x7 paintings that you saw that I showed today, those were all painted with these paints. Okay. So you can definitely get some bright colors out of these. You can, modify them, make them neutral, gray. You can pretty much do anything with these that you need to do. So far, I'm pretty impressed by them. And I think, I'm not going to be spending a lot of time buying a lot of extra colors, in a lot of brands of paint. I'll probably just stay with that cyan, magenta, and yellow combination as a limited palette. Again, because I can make anything that I want out of it. I can make a black. I can make muted colors. I can keep colors very intense. So that's my experience so far. Any questions about that? Anybody got any thoughts about that?
Would you give the name again, please?
Oh, of the paint, the Italian paint?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's easier to read on this side. It's M-A-I.
M-A-I.
M-E-R-I.
M-E-R-I, okay.
Mm-hmm. And then Puro. P-U-R-O. It's another word.
Okay.
And I think the Puro is, it's like their professional artist grade.
Okay.
And
you bought it where?
Pardon?
And you bought it where?
I bought it at Jerry's Artorama online.
Okay.
And I read a couple of, when I saw the paint on Jerry's, I read a couple of articles about this particular paint, and a couple of artists were talking about the fact that they really like this stuff. And so I figured, okay, I wasn't really looking for this to begin with, but I was looking for a line of paint that carried a cyan, a magenta, and a primary yellow. And they had it in their professional artist grade line. So I bought it, since that's what I was interested in experimenting with. And like I said, so far, I'm really, really happy, with the result. What I will tell you is that, again, saturation on the Italian paint was much higher, probably double of what the Luka, which is a Russian grade paint. And the thing that I'm noticing about the Luka, which is actually good paint, there's nothing really wrong with it, but it's a very different result. The saturation of the color in this is not as strong. And when you're trying to mix, like, for example, a really bright violet, it's not nearly as bright as using, those smaller tubes. There's something about the way the cyan and the magenta react together in this paint. I mean, it makes you a really nice purple, but there's a difference in the quality of it, and it's not as saturated and not as strong in these. So you get a lot more paint in these. So if you're going to be doing big paintings and stuff like that, these will work just fine. But if you really want, really strong saturated color, those are better.
that my Mary Puro,
Huh?
Amazon has individuals 1347, set of 5, 28.96, but in the other place they call Jerry's or Tamara Art Supply is more expensive, 14 something, 28 something.
Okay. Well, now where were you looking? You looking at Jerry's and where else?
And Amazon.
On Amazon. Okay. Yeah.
Amazon has
Yeah.
cheaper, but I don't know if it's the same quality. They say my Mary Pure oil.
Okay. Well, if it's the Puro line, then that's an artist quality oil. So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, if you can get it on Amazon cheaper, then buy it from Amazon. Yeah. Yeah. I just found it on Jerry's, and so that's where I bought it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was happy with that. I think it turned out really well. So, and again, when I compare that to buying even like the Winsor Newton line, Winsor Newton is much more expensive, with the paint. And Winsor Newton professional artist colors, I mean, it's great paint, I really like it. And the colors are great, stuff like that. But the price on some of those colors, a small tube this size, okay, of a color called turquoise, which is one of my favorite colors to work with, in the Winsor Newton Professional Artist line is $90.
Woo.
Good grief.
Some of the cadmiums are over 100. You're looking at $110, $120 for a single tube of paint. And it's like, okay, that's a little too rich for my blood. So again, it's like, you got to use what will work for you. And so I can afford these, and it's good color. It's really good high saturated color. So I just thought I'd pass that along to you, let you know, in case you were inclined to want to start looking for some paint to push around on a canvas and you needed some.
Charles, what is the brand of paint that we used when we were painting at the Dorothy Benson Center?
That was the Winsor. It's made by Winsor Newton, but it's Winton, W-I-N-T-O-N. And that's what they consider their student grade paint. Now, I will tell you, though, that Winton paint, that's as good as any other paint out there. In fact, it's better than most. And the color saturation and things are really pretty good. But it's really inexpensive, and you can buy it in the 200 milliliters, and it will do anything you want it to do. It really will. And
what's the price point?
Oh, it's, you can get a big 200 milliliter tube for $12 or $13. So it's really not very much. And it's perfectly good paint. It's better paint than Leonardo da Vinci or Rembrandt worked with, by far. Okay. And, so, a lot of artists will kind of, put down student grade paints, but I won't say that. Okay. But in companies like Winsor Newton or Grumbacher, their student grade paints are far better than what the old masters used. Just because, just modern technology, the availability of materials, things like that, they can make much better paint today than they made, 400 or 500 years ago. So, and it's a lot easier to get. You go down to your art supply store, and when you want to buy that next tube of cadmium red of Winsor Newton paint, when you get it home, it will be exactly like the previous tube of cadmium red that you bought by Winsor Newton. There won't be any difference. So if nothing else, the consistency is really nice. So it's hard to go wrong, in buying paint these days. Just about anything that you buy will work and probably work pretty well. So, now if you want to get like really crazy and exotic, you can always go buy a lot of these small batch handmade paints, like Williamsburg or Gamlin. And again, a lot of artists are using those. They really like them. The color saturation is good. The thing with the Gamlin, from what I've heard from people who use it, is unlike the Winsor Newton, when you go down and you buy that next tube of cadmium red, it may not be exactly the same because they will shift slightly with batches. So you might get a really good batch, and then you might get one that's not quite as good. So, I don't know. But that's, that's just been the experience of people that I know using it. So anyway. All right. Well, anybody got anything else you want to talk about? Politics? Religion? Sex? Food? Exotic places to go?
Speaking of food,
Yeah.
I have a bunch of wild blackberries in my backyard,
Yeah.
and I wound up making a blackberry preserve out of them. I had so many just yesterday, and that's so to compliment it, Publix had blackberries on sale, so I added some of those, and then I did some fish for dinner last night and used that as a blackberry sauce on top of the fish, and it was very good. Even though I do say so myself.
Yeah,
there you go.
I've got a blackberry story, from my childhood. My poor grandmother, she made me a deal. She, because I'd go out and pick blackberries, and, she said, well, if you want to go out and pick them, if you pick them, I'll make the pie. Guess what I did all summer long? Pick blackberries. And it's like she made pies, jams, jellies, whatever you could imagine making with blackberries, we made with blackberries that summer. She never challenged me that way again. So
those are good stories.
Yeah, those are good stories. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess if nobody else has got anything to talk about or say, then we will see you tomorrow. I will make sure to send out those links tonight so that you'll have them for tomorrow. And so hopefully we can catch up. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to probably be doing class from the Benson Center.
Oh.
Well, because, speaking of food, they're having a little get-together there tomorrow for the staff. I guess Quentin is breaking out the barbecue grill, and we're all going to get a kind of a little social hour or whatever to kind of catch up with each other, since most of us haven't seen each other in about 1.5 years now. So we're all going to go eat barbecue over at Benson, around 11 o'clock noon. And then since I'm over that way, I'll probably just stay there and, do the class from the art room in Benson. Okay?
All right.
So that being said, I've gathered up some stuff that you guys sent. If you've got more stuff that you're working on, anything you want to share for tomorrow, send it, and I'll get it in the queue. Okay?
Okie doke.
All right. It was wonderful as always, seeing each and every one of you.
See you tomorrow.
All right. Take care. You have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.